Story number 4, The Radio in Room 302. I hadn't meant to stop. The storm rerouted everything. Flooded highway, closed exits, endless cornfields. By the time I saw the busted neon sign for Red Pine Lodge, I was running on half a tank and even less sleep. It blinked red once, then twice, like a warning. I ignored it. The man at the front desk didn't ask questions. Just slid me a key with the number 302 and said, "Third floor's yours. Ice machine's busted. Don't fiddle with the radio." I didn't even register that last part. I just nodded, signed a fake name, and climbed the narrow stairs that creaked like a throat clearing itself. Room 302 was stale and brown. Brown curtains, brown carpet, brown stains on the ceiling. A smell clung to it, damp wool and cigarette ghosts. But it was warm. The heater kicked in with a groan, and I collapsed onto the mattress like it owed me something. That's when I noticed the radio. It sat on the nightstand. One of those old silver AM/FM boxes with a mechanical dial. Ugly thing. And it was on. Not loud. Just static. A low hiss, like someone breathing through clenched teeth. I reached for the knob and twisted it off. It clicked. The red light went out. Silence. I rolled over. Closed my eyes. Then it started again. Soft at first, a faint whisper. A voice bleeding through the white noise. "Daniel." I sat up fast. The radio was still off. The red light still dead. But the static was there. Louder now. "You shouldn't have come here." I stood up, yanked the cord from the wall. Nothing changed. No, that's not right, it did change. The static deepened, like it had layers. Beneath it, I could hear music. Familiar. A lullaby. My mother used to hum that tune when I was sick. I held the unplugged radio in my hands and stared at it like it might explain itself. Then it crackled, louder, and I dropped it. "We remember you, Daniel." That was enough. I left the radio where it was, grabbed my jacket, and bolted down the hallway toward the lobby. But when I pushed the stairwell door open, all I saw was the same hallway again. Same carpet. Same humming. Room 302 behind me. Only, the number on the door ahead of me said 302 too. And I hadn't turned around. I didn't move for a long time. The number 302 stared back at me from the door ahead. Same scratched brass plaque. Same peeling edge of red paint. I looked behind me. Another 302. It didn't make sense. I picked one and opened it. Same room. Same dent in the headboard. Same burn marks on the carpet. Same unplugged radio sitting on the nightstand, static humming like it never stopped. Like it couldn't stop. I backed out. Shut the door. Held my breath. Opened the other 302. The room hadn't changed. Not even a little. Same motel Bible lying open on the same verse in Psalms, the corner of the page bent exactly the same. It was like the motel was folding in on itself. I tried the lobby again. Walked faster. Then ran. Every corner turned, every stair taken, back to the third floor. Back to the same hallway. Like the place was a loop stuck in its own nightmare. Eventually, I stopped trying. I just sat on the edge of the bed, face in my hands. The radio spoke again. "You remember the lake?" I froze. I hadn't told anyone about the lake. Not since the accident. Not since she died. I turned slowly. The radio's red light was still off. Plug still dangling from the wall like a dead vine. But the voice was clear now. Too clear. Male. Calm. A little sad. "You left her in the water. Cold, wasn't it? She called for you." My chest tightened. I don't talk about my mother's death. Not out loud. The hospital said it was cardiac arrest, but I knew. I was the one who convinced her to take that trip. told her the cold air would help her lungs. I left her to walk back alone. She collapsed near the shore. I didn't find her for hours. She forgave you, you know. But not this place. What do you want? I whispered. The static paused. We want to show you. Then silence. Not just from the radio, from everything. The rain outside had stopped. No traffic. No wind. No hum from the ceiling light. I was alone in a dead world. And the radio was warm to the touch now. Like it had been waiting. I didn't sleep. I didn't even try. I just sat in the brown room with the brown carpet, staring at the unplugged radio, now radiating warmth like a living thing. I thought if I blinked, it might crawl toward me. Or speak again. But it didn't. It just waited. By morning, or what I assumed was morning, since the light never really changed, I forced myself up and tried the door again. It opened. Same hallway. But this time, the sign above the stairwell was gone. Just a blank, rusted frame and a smell like wet paper. I walked anyway. Down, down, down. When I reached the lobby, I stopped. The desk was empty. No clerk. No guest book. No door. Just a wall where the exit had been, and behind the counter, the radio. The same silver AM/FM, still hissing. You're not supposed to be here. The voice again. But something was different. Not coming from the radio this time. From behind me. I turned. It was my mother. Or, what used to be her. Her shape, but wrong. Her eyes were milk glass white, lips too red, hands twitching like they didn't quite belong to her. She tilted her head, and I heard bones shift. You left me cold. I stepped back, knocking the radio from the counter. It clattered, broke open, wires and dust. You left me alone. I opened my mouth to speak, to say I was sorry, to scream, I don't know. But she was gone. The room was empty again. No radio. No counter. Just a hallway behind me that led nowhere and a door where the wall had been. I didn't think. I just ran for it. When I burst through, I landed hard on cracked concrete. My car was parked at the far end of the lot, wet with rain that hadn't fallen in hours. Or days. The motel was gone. Just a field behind me. No sign. No building. Nothing. I drove. Didn't stop until daylight. At a gas station, I asked if anyone had heard of Red Pine Lodge. The woman behind the counter didn't blink. That place burned down in '82. Took out the whole top floor. No survivors. Room 302 caught fire first. I didn't argue. I just got in my car and drove again. The radio in my dashboard crackled as I turned onto the highway. You checked in, Daniel. But you never checked out. Story number 5, the girl in the reflection moves first. I used to think mirrors just reflected what was already there. Until the one in my grandmother's house blinked at me, before I did. I was 13 when my parents sent me to stay with her. They said it was temporary, a word adults love using when they mean indefinitely. They needed space. I needed supervision. Gran lived alone in a sagging farmhouse where the wallpaper peeled like old sunburn and the air always smelled like dust and lavender. Her bathroom mirror was different. Oval. Antique. Framed in black and brass, mounted above a rust-stained sink. It didn't match the rest of the house, too elegant for the creaky floorboards and moth-bitten towels. She told me it belonged to her mother, and some things remember better than others. I didn't understand what that meant. The first night, brushing my teeth, I noticed something strange. My reflection seemed off. Slight delay. Half a second. Small enough to doubt. Big enough to feel. I blamed bad wiring or warped glass. But the next night, I leaned in close. And she blinked. Not me. Her. My heart froze. I stared, toothbrush dripping in my hand, waiting for her to move again. She didn't. My reflection just stared back, lips parted, eyes wide, copying me, perfectly now. Like nothing had happened. I didn't tell Gran. She didn't believe in nonsense. We're Scottish. We deal with real ghosts, poverty, weather, and God. That's what she always said. But the mirror blinked again the next night. And then smiled. I didn't. It wasn't a big smile. Just a twitch of the lips. But it was real. I tried testing it. Raising my left hand slowly. The reflection copied me, but lifted the right. As it should. Then I stopped halfway. She didn't. Her hand stayed up. Like she was waiting. The bathroom got cold. Not room temperature cold, deep cold, like the kind inside a freezer, under your skin. I backed away, turned off the light, and slammed the door. The reflection didn't vanish immediately. It lingered. Staring through the dark glass, like she'd been waiting a long time for someone to notice. That night, I heard the soft creak of hinges at 3 a.m. The bathroom door opening. By itself. The creak of the bathroom door woke me. At first, I thought it was the house settling. That's what adults always say when they're too tired to admit something sounds wrong. But then I heard it again, closer. A soft step. Then another. I didn't move. Just lay under Gran's floral quilt, eyes wide, ears straining. The floor outside my room moaned quietly, as if someone small was pacing barefoot, slowly dragging their toes like they weren't used to walking. My bedroom door didn't open. But I swear I saw the shadow move under it. Long and narrow. I must have fallen asleep eventually. When I woke up, the house was quiet again. Too quiet. Gran was already outside, tending her wilting roses like nothing happened. I checked the bathroom. The mirror was clean. Too clean. Gran never cleaned it. But now it was spotless. Like it had just been polished, except for one long, greasy handprint sliding down the inside of the glass. Inside. I didn't tell Gran. I told myself I imagined it. That maybe I'd sleepwalked. That maybe trauma does weird things. Kids believe whatever lie gets them through the morning. That afternoon, I avoided the mirror. I even used the kitchen sink to brush my teeth. But by evening, the house felt wrong. Too still. Too watchful. I was reading on the couch when I saw it. Out of the corner of my eye. In the hallway mirror across the room, just past the coat rack. I was sitting still. But the reflection showed me standing. Head tilted. Staring back. Wearing the same clothes. But the shirt was reversed. Backward letters. As if she were still inside a mirror. Watching from her side. I looked straight at it. She smiled again. No teeth this time. Just lips pressed together, wide and slow. Then she raised her hand and pointed, toward the hallway. Toward me. I turned, fast. Nothing there. But when I turned back, the reflection was gone. Completely. Even though the mirror was still there. My chest felt tight. Like I was being watched from everywhere and nowhere all at once. That night, I found muddy footprints on the floorboards outside my bedroom door. Tiny. Barefoot. They stopped right at the threshold. And they didn't point in. They pointed out. I tried telling Gran. She didn't laugh, exactly. Just looked at me the way adults do when they think you're lonely, or maybe broken in a way they can't fix. You've been through a lot, she said softly, like that explained everything. And maybe it did. Maybe that's why I stopped sleeping. Because every time I closed my eyes, I saw her again, not in the mirror anymore, but behind it. Like glass was never a boundary, just a thin veil. And now, she was free. The house changed too. Mirrors stopped reflecting. Some just stayed dark, like empty windows at night. Others showed things that shouldn't be there. My face looking back at me, but too still. Or blinking when I didn't. Or, smiling. Gran started locking the bathroom. Said the pipes were acting up. But I knew the truth. She'd seen it too. The girl. The one who moved first. One night, I woke to find the door open. Not just ajar, wide, like it had been waiting for me. The mirror inside glowed faintly, like there was a light behind it. I stepped in. The air was thick. Cold. The walls hummed like a distant engine, low and rhythmic. I faced the mirror. And she was there. Not behind the glass, in it. Her skin was pale, almost gray. Hair flat and soaked, like she'd crawled up from somewhere wet. Her eyes were mine. But older. Sadder. Angry. She didn't speak with words. Just moved her lips. And somehow, I understood. You saw me. You let me out. She pressed her palm to the glass. I felt it against my chest. Not cold. Not warm. Just real. I wanted to run. To scream. But my body wouldn't move. I stared, paralyzed, as she leaned forward, and instead of fogging the glass with breath, she fogged me. I watched frost bloom across my ribs from the inside. Then she vanished. And I was alone. But my reflection lingered. Off by half a second again. I blinked. She didn't. She just watched. And smiled. I haven't looked in a mirror since. But sometimes, when I pass store windows or car windshields, I catch something out of sync. A flicker. A twitch. And I know she's still there. Watching. Waiting. Wearing my face. Story number 6, it crawled out of the crawlspace, and it knew my name. They never tell you that old houses breathe. At night, mine wheezed. After the divorce, I couldn't afford much. So I rented this one-story ranch house on the edge of town. Built in the 60s, sagging in all the wrong places. But the rent was cheap, the neighbors kept to themselves, and I figured I could patch it up over time. The crawlspace door was in the hallway closet. I didn't notice it at first. It was sealed tight with warped wood and old screws, buried behind paint cans and brittle winter coats the last tenant left behind. But I remember the first time I heard it, soft scratching. Not mice. Rhythmic. Measured. Like someone tapping their nails in time with a song only they could hear. At first, I ignored it. You learn to do that when you're alone. Noise becomes normal. Fear becomes furniture. But then it said my name. Not loudly. Just, casually. Like it already knew me. Eli. I froze. The heater wasn't running. The windows were shut. I stood in the hallway, staring at the closet door, and listened again. Silence. Then the faintest laugh. Like someone covering their mouth. That night I shoved a chair under the doorknob and turned up the TV until I fell asleep. The next morning, I checked it. The door was still closed, but the inside knob was warm. As if someone had been holding it from the other side. I told myself it was nothing. Maybe I'd dreamed it. Maybe loneliness was getting creative. But the next night, it spoke again. Closer this time. I heard movement. Shifting. Crawling. I remember you, Eli. Do you remember me? My legs locked. I couldn't move. Couldn't breathe. That voice, I recognized it. I just didn't know how. It wasn't until later, while digging through old boxes, that I found the picture. Me. Age 6. At my grandmother's house. Holding a toy robot. Smiling. Behind me, under the floor vent. Something crouched. Pale hands. Black eyes. A mouth open too wide. I thought it was a shadow. Until now. Until I realized, the crawl space in this house? Same design. Same size. Same location. I hadn't rented a house. I'd come back. I tried to tell myself the voice was stress. A trick of fatigue. But there's a line between tired and haunted, and by the second week, I'd crossed it. The crawlspace door kept rattling. Always around 2 a.m. Like something impatient. Or playful. I piled heavy boxes in front of the closet. Nailed the door shut. I even stuffed towels under the crack to block the drafts, or the breath, if I'm honest. It didn't stop. I started dreaming again. Not nightmares exactly. Just wrong memories. Me, as a child, hiding under my grandmother's porch. Whispering into the slats. Someone always whispered back. I used to think it was my imagination, until now. One night, the dream changed. I wasn't hiding. I was feeding something. Sliding scraps of food through the cracks. Smiling. Talking. Saying its name. Except, I couldn't remember what I'd called it. When I woke, I checked the hallway. The boxes were knocked over. The crawlspace door was open. Not wide. Just a few inches. Just enough. Enough for a voice to carry. You left me, Eli. I slammed it shut so hard the frame splintered. Drove nails in again. 3. Then 5. Then 7, because my hand was shaking and I couldn't stop. The next morning, I heard dragging in the vents. Something moving through the walls. I turned on every light in the house. Didn't help. Light doesn't reach that kind of darkness. The kind that knows you. That remembers. That wears the shape of something you thought you made up. I called my mom. Asked her if she remembered anything strange at Grant's house. She was quiet for a while. Then she said, "You had an imaginary friend. Wouldn't stop talking to it. Said it lived in the vents." She laughed. Nervously. "You used to call it the hollow boy." Said he had to stay under the floor because he didn't have skin. I didn't laugh. I couldn't. Because I remembered now. The way I used to whisper to it. The way it used to whisper back. The games we played. The way it cried when I moved away. I was 6. And I told it I'd come back. The crawlspace door was open again. This time, all the nails were lying neatly on the floor, lined up in a row. 7. Each one placed with care. The towel I'd stuffed in the crack was gone. Not moved. Not tossed aside. Gone, like it had been pulled into the dark and devoured. I didn't bother calling anyone. Who would believe me? Hey, there's something I fed under my grandma's house when I was 6 and now it wants me to remember its name. Instead, I sat in the hallway and stared at the opening. And it stared back. There was no light, no movement. Just a void where light refused to enter. Not black, not shadow. Hollow. You said you'd come back. It didn't sound angry. It sounded hurt. Small. Almost betrayed. You said we were friends. I could see it now. Just the outline. Something curled in the dark, its limbs too long, too thin. Bent in angles that bones shouldn't bend. No face, just a smooth, glistening surface where one should be. Waiting for me to fill it in. I backed away. It followed. Slowly. No footsteps. Just the soft sound of skin dragging over wood. Long fingers pressed into the floor, pulling its frame toward me with wet, popping joints. You gave me a name. You made me. And then you left. I shook my head. You weren't real, I whispered. It paused. You were real enough for me. I ran. Out the front door, into the night, barefoot on cold concrete. I didn't stop until I hit the corner store 3 blocks down. I waited there till sunrise, pretending to shop, heart racing like a hunted thing. When I returned, the crawlspace door was closed. No nails. No voice. Just silence. I moved out the next day. Haven't spoken of it since. But some nights, late, when I pass reflective windows or see a polished doorknob, I catch a flicker of something standing just behind me. Blank-faced. Watching. Waiting. The hollow boy. Still following. Still learning how to wear me. Story number 7, the forest took my brother. But he came back wrong. I lost my brother when I was 10. One second we were playing by the tree line, me chasing him daring me to go deeper, and the next, he was just gone. Like the woods swallowed him mid-laugh. His name was Jacob. 7 years old. The kind of kid who thought he was invincible because he could climb higher and run faster than me. We searched for 3 days. Dogs, helicopters, volunteers. All they found was one of his sneakers, soaked and half buried in the creek that ran behind the hills. My mother screamed when they gave it to her. But on the 4th night, just before dawn, he came back. Walked right out of the woods. Smiling. Like nothing happened. His clothes were clean. Too clean. No dirt, no rips, no water stains. His skin was warm, and his voice was calm, like he'd just woken from a nap. The sheriff asked him where he'd been. With the quiet people, he said. No one knew what that meant. But he wouldn't say more. After that, life just tried to move on. But I knew. I knew that wasn't Jacob. Not really. He still looked like him. Still laughed the same way. But there were cracks. Slips. The way his smile never reached his eyes anymore. How he'd sit awake at night just staring at the window. And how he stopped blinking. I'd count. Sometimes he'd go minutes without moving. Once, I woke up to find him standing at the foot of my bed. Just watching me sleep. Go away, I whispered. He smiled. But you're coming too. Soon. I didn't sleep after that. I started keeping a baseball bat under my bed. Told my parents. They called it trauma. Said I needed time. But time didn't fix the fact that my brother had come back from the woods with no scratches, no fear, and new rules. He never went near mirrors. He refused to eat meat. And when I caught him one night whispering into the air, I swear I heard whispers whispering back. He didn't come back alone. Something followed him out. Or maybe, something else came back wearing him. They said he was lucky. That no kid survives 3 nights alone in those woods. But Jacob never mentioned being scared. Not once. He never asked for his teddy bear again. Never clung to our mom's side like he used to. Instead, he sat still for hours, staring out at the trees like they were whispering something only he could hear. He stopped calling them the woods. He started calling them home. At dinner, he'd ask weird questions. Like, do you think skin grows back if you leave it behind? Or, how deep do roots go before they touch something that thinks? My parents would laugh nervously. But I couldn't. Not after I saw what he did to the squirrel. I found him crouched behind the shed one afternoon, holding it. Not hurting it. Just watching it. The squirrel was paralyzed. Its eyes darted, but it couldn't move. Jacob looked at me and said, perfectly calm. They taught me how. You just press the right part in their head. It goes quiet. I didn't reply. I just walked away. Slowly. That night, I locked my bedroom door for the first time. I started noticing other things. Jacob's shadow didn't always match what he was doing. Sometimes, when he tilted his head, the shadow kept staring forward. He stopped breathing when he slept. I'd sneak into his room just to check. Put a mirror under his nose. Nothing. Then, one night, I found him standing in the backyard, barefoot in the mud, arms lifted to the trees like he was praying. He turned when I called his name. And he smiled. That same wrong smile. They want you too, he said. They said I could bring you next. He reached out, and I stepped back so hard I fell into the rose bushes. When I looked up, he was gone. Not inside. Not behind the shed. Just, gone. Until morning. He came down for breakfast like nothing happened. Mud still under his nails. That day, he drew something in crayon. A circle of trees. A boy with no eyes. Me. Standing in the center. It started calling me a week later. Not Jacob, the woods. A hum beneath the leaves. A pull at the base of my spine. I'd stand by the kitchen window and stare out at the tree line, heart racing, not knowing why. Until I'd catch Jacob, already watching me from the yard. He'd just stand there. Waiting. Smiling. I stopped eating. Stopped sleeping. Every sound made me flinch. I heard footsteps in the attic. Whispers in the vents. But only at night. And always in his voice. It's better there. You'll see. I told my mom again. She started crying this time. Not because she believed me. Because she didn't know what to believe anymore. That night, I heard the door creak open. Bare feet on linoleum. Then the back door. Slowly. Quietly. I followed. The moon was full, hanging low like it didn't want to see what came next. Jacob stood at the edge of the woods, barefoot in the grass, holding my hand-me-down jacket in one hand. I remembered, he whispered. Where we buried the teeth. I froze. I had buried teeth there. When I was 6. Lost ones. I thought it would make them grow back faster. I never told anyone. He turned, walking into the trees. And I followed. I don't know why. Branches pulled at my shirt. The deeper we went, the quieter it got. Even my breath felt muffled. Like sound didn't travel there. Then we reached a clearing. A perfect circle. No leaves inside it. No insects. Just bare dirt and silence. He stepped in. You go first, he said. Then I'll go home. I shook my head. And he frowned, not angry, but disappointed. Like I'd failed some invisible test. One of us has to stay. That's the rule. The ground shifted beneath him, slightly. Like something underneath had breathed. I ran. Didn't look back. Didn't stop until I collapsed on the porch, mud in my lungs and tears in my throat. They found Jacob the next morning. Asleep in his bed. Smiling. But when he blinked, it was just a little too slow. And when he hugged Mom, his hands were still cold. Sometimes I wonder if that was him. Because I still hear someone crying in the woods at night. A boy. With my voice. Story number 8, my father's voice came through the baby monitor, but he's been dead 12 years. The first time it spoke, I thought I was sleep-deprived. We just brought our daughter home from the hospital. Evelyn. 4 pounds, premature, lungs like wet paper. She barely made a sound when she cried. Just little bird-like gasps through the monitor. It was 2:33 a.m. when I woke up that night. The monitor crackled softly, white noise, same as always, but underneath it, something whispered. Don't let her cry. She doesn't like that. A man's voice. Calm. Familiar. My father's voice. Which was impossible. Because he'd died 12 years ago. Pancreatic cancer. Slow, cruel. I'd held his hand in the hospice room when he slipped away. I sat up in bed, heart thudding so hard it pulsed in my ears. My husband, Derek, snored softly beside me. The monitor crackled again. I pressed the volume button. Nothing. Then a long breath came through the speaker. Not Evelyn's. Too deep. Too steady. She's not sleeping. She's watching. I bolted to her room. She was wide awake, eyes open, staring directly into the dark corner of the ceiling. No noise. No movement. Just fixed, unblinking focus. I checked behind the curtain. The closet. Under the crib. Nothing. She didn't cry. Just watched. When I sat beside her, her gaze broke. She looked at me. Blinked. Come again. The monitor beside the crib stayed silent. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. The next morning, I didn't tell Derek. He'd already been worried about my postpartum stress. Hallucinations weren't going to help. But that wasn't the last time. The second night, I unplugged the monitor and took the batteries out. Still heard him. It's not her crying. It's the other one. That time, I threw up. Because my father never met Evelyn. But the way he spoke, it was like he already knew her. Like they'd spoken before. And worse, like he wasn't alone. That word, the other one. We only had one child. Right? I didn't want to believe it. I told myself it was exhaustion. Echoes from old memories. Maybe I wanted to hear my father again, maybe grief was reaching out through static. But then Evelyn changed. Not dramatically. Just subtly. The way she'd track something in the room that wasn't there. How she'd start smiling at the corner of the ceiling again, same one, every time. Once, I caught her laughing at it. That soft baby giggle that usually melts your heart. But not this time. Not when she hadn't made a sound in hours, and her mouth hadn't moved. The monitor picked up the laugh. She didn't. It came from the speaker. And it wasn't her voice. Too low. Too knowing. I ran into the nursery. She was asleep. Perfectly still. But her eyes were open, just a sliver. Watching me. It's not her crying. It's the other one. That's what he'd said. I started checking the monitor logs. Pulled the audio feed into my laptop. One clip stuck with me. 2:41 a.m. Low interference. Then. Don't pick her up when she's red. That's not her. That night, I stayed awake beside her crib, phone recording in my hand. Evelyn slept peacefully. Then, without warning, her body tensed. And her mouth moved, but the sound came from the baby monitor speaker across the room. Mommy. I froze. She wasn't awake. She wasn't talking. But something was using her mouth. I whispered, "What do you want?" The monitor hissed. "She's only half here. The other half still sleeps below." Below? I looked under the crib. Nothing. But the baby blanket hanging down touched the old air vent. It rattled slightly, even though the heat wasn't on. I reached down. Cold air. Too cold. Like a basement full of breath. Derek still didn't believe me. He said I was spiraling. That I needed to get out of the house. But when I asked him to sit in her room and just listen, just once, he said he didn't hear anything. Until 2 nights later, when he came to bed shaking. Didn't speak. Just whispered. "Your dad told me not to touch the mirror, baby." After Derek heard it, everything changed. He stopped calling me paranoid. Stopped sleeping too. We took turns sitting in Evelyn's room at night, watching, waiting. But nothing ever happened when we were both there. Only when we were alone. The monitor would crackle, and his voice, my father's, would return. But softer now. Slurred. Like the signal was breaking. She's slipping. One of them is learning how to wear her. One night, I found Derek in the living room with every mirror in the house covered in blankets and towels. He looked at me and said, "She's clearer in the reflection." I didn't ask who he meant. Because I already knew. That night, we heard crying through the monitor, high-pitched, panicked. We ran into the nursery together. Evelyn was in her crib, eyes shut, wailing. But something stood at the mirror across the room. Not a reflection. Not Evelyn. Another Evelyn. Same face. Same pajamas. But still. Too still. Her mouth open as if to cry, but no sound came out. And when we stepped into the room, she turned away. Inside the mirror. She turned and walked out of view. Evelyn stopped crying instantly. We packed bags that night. We told ourselves we were taking a trip. Some air. A break from the house. But I knew better. You can't run from something that doesn't need doors. That next morning, while strapping Evelyn into her car seat, I paused. Something felt off. She was blinking. But it was delayed. Half a second behind. I tested it. I blinked once. She didn't. Just smiled. Soft. Wide. Too wide. I reached for her. And the baby monitor in the diaper bag crackled. That's not her. I stared at her. She stared back. Something ancient behind her eyes. Something watching through her. My hand hovered over the buckle. Then, the real Evelyn began crying. From inside the house. Behind us. From the nursery. We turned. And the thing in the car seat stopped smiling. We never found the one in the house. We never found the one in the car. And now, they both cry sometimes. At the same time. From different rooms.